The Enchanted Lantern of Selune Valley. Part 2. The Forgotten Cave. The next morning, Arlo woke with a single thought on his mind. The light. It had come back last night, and this time, it had been closer than ever before, flickering just beyond the tree line near the edge of the village. He couldn't shake the feeling that it was calling to him, urging him to follow. He dressed quickly and ran outside, his breath visible in the cold morning air. There, waiting for him near the old oak tree, was Elara. "Ready?" she asked, a glint of mischief in her eyes. "Ready for what?" Elara smirked. "The cave, obviously. We're going to find it." Arlo hesitated for a moment, unsure. The villagers always spoke of the cave in whispers, and his parents had warned him to stay away from the hills. But the light, there was something about it. It felt important, like a puzzle waiting to be solved. "Okay," he said finally. "Let's go." The two of them set off toward the ridge, the mist clinging to their clothes as they made their way through the tall grass. The path was steep and winding, and soon they were surrounded by towering trees, their branches twisting together overhead like a canopy. The deeper they went, the darker the forest became, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and pine. "Are you sure we're going the right way?" Arlo asked, glancing around. "Positive," Elara replied. "My grandfather told me the cave was somewhere near the big stone marker. We just have to find it." For what felt like hours, they wandered through the forest, searching for any sign of the cave. The trees grew denser, the shadows longer, and Arlo's heart began to race. What if the cave wasn't real? What if it was just a story, a trick of the light and fog? But then, just as he was about to give up, Elara stopped in her tracks. "There," she whispered, pointing ahead. Arlo squinted through the fog. At first, he saw nothing but trees and moss-covered rocks, but then, slowly, a shape emerged from the mist. It was a massive stone marker, standing tall and solitary among the trees, its surface worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. The carvings on it were faint but unmistakable. Strange symbols and runes, unlike anything Arlo had ever seen before. "That's it," Elara said, her voice barely audible. They approached the marker cautiously, the air growing colder with every step. As they neared the stone, Arlo noticed something odd. The ground around the marker was different from the rest of the forest floor. Darker, almost black, as if scorched by some long-forgotten fire. "Look," Elara said, pointing to the base of the stone. There, hidden beneath a thick layer of moss, was the entrance to the cave. It was barely large enough for them to crawl through, a jagged opening in the hillside that seemed to have been concealed for years. Arlo's heart skipped a beat. The cave was real. "Are we really going in there?" he asked, suddenly unsure. Elara grinned. "You bet we are." Without another word, she crouched down and crawled through the opening, disappearing into the darkness. Arlo hesitated for only a moment before following, his hands trembling as he pulled himself into the cave. Inside, the air was cold and damp, and the walls were slick with moisture. The narrow tunnel stretched ahead of them, winding deeper into the earth. Arlo's heart pounded in his chest, the sound echoing off the stone walls as they moved deeper and deeper into the cave. "Do you think anyone's been in here before?" Arlo asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't know," Elara replied, "but I think we're about to find out." As they ventured further, the tunnel opened up into a larger chamber, the ceiling towering high above them. Strange carvings lined the walls, much like those on the stone marker outside, symbols and figures that seemed to shift and twist in the dim light. The air felt heavier here, as if they had crossed some invisible threshold into a place untouched by time. "Look at this," Elara said, pointing to one of the carvings. It depicted a figure holding a lantern, much like the one Arlo had seen in the distance. The lantern glowed brightly in the carving, surrounded by swirling stars and crescent moons. "That's the light," Arlo breathed. "It's the same one." But before they could investigate further, a sound echoed through the chamber. A faint, almost musical hum, like the toll of a distant bell. It seemed to come from deeper within the cave, drawing them forward like a whisper carried on the wind. "Do you hear that?" Elara asked, her eyes wide with excitement. Arlo nodded, his pulse quickening. "It's coming from over there." They followed the sound, moving deeper into the cave until they reached another tunnel, narrower and darker than the first. The air here was colder, the walls rougher, as if this part of the cave had been carved by nature rather than human hands. The sound grew louder, filling the tunnel with its strange, melodic rhythm. It seemed to pulse through the walls, through the very air itself, drawing them closer and closer. And then, suddenly, the tunnel opened into another chamber, larger than the last, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into the shadows. In the center of the room, hovering above a stone pedestal, was the source of the sound: a lantern. But this was no ordinary lantern. It was ancient, its metal frame etched with intricate designs, and its glass panels glowed with a soft, ethereal light. Arlo's breath caught in his throat. "That's it," he whispered. "That's the light." But before they could take another step, a figure stepped out of the shadows, a creature, unlike anything they had ever seen. It was tall and thin, its body cloaked in darkness, but its eyes glowed with the same light as the lantern. It regarded them with a calm, almost serene expression, as if it had been waiting for them all along. "Welcome," the creature said in a voice that was both kind and ancient. "I am Nerith, the guardian of dreams." This concludes Part 2 of the Enchanted Lantern of Selune Valley. In Part 3, Arlo and Elara will learn more about Nerith, the guardian of dreams, and the true nature of the lantern. If you enjoyed this part of the Enchanted Lantern of Selune Valley, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. New stories are released Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. PST, only on the Lantern's Light. Where dreams and reality blur, adventure awaits in the shadows.